This is the Development Review Committee meeting for October 21st. The first item is Kings Hill Road subdivision and administrative subdivision in Up County. Whenever you're ready, Jane.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Pizer with Up County. And I'm the lead reviewer on this project. So a little background, this project is going to be a 2-lot subdivision in the R200 zone. And just quickly go over some of our main comments that we made. I think we're going to have some difficulty with the right-of-way and the possible dedications and keeping the lot size at 20,000 square feet. So that's one of our main concerns I want to talk through with DOT and fire today. And we also want to discuss with WSSC and possibly well and septic if they're here, the utilities connection to both houses. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to DOT first.
This is the applicant's meeting, right?
Yes.
So the applicant, do they have any questions? Because I don't think we can discuss this like in this meeting. I think that we should take this offline and we should make a recommendation beforehand. So
Okay.
Before we come to these meetings, we should have something. So at this point, we don't have a solution at this time. We can talk further internally, then we'll get back to you later in the week or early next week.
Mizan, do you have any questions?
Good morning, everyone. This is Mizan Rahman. I'm the owner of the lot or house. So thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk a little bit. So I went through that the list that you guys provided to us, and we can say that in most cases we have compliant with you guys. Like whatever you are asking, we'll do that. I don't have any questions, but a couple of items looks like at least one item I saw that is resolved, but in the right column it said unresolved. So my question will be that is, do we need to go through each item and then can I say whatever we thought we should say?
You're asking about, do you have to go through every item? What you need to do is if you have any questions on the comments that we gave you, then you should ask them at this point.
I think I have at least one question. So I have to let me go through that one. Question, where is the, oh, here. So number 52, it says approved. Yeah, in the comment section it says approved, but then in the right column or it says unresolved. So which one is right? I mean, it's like, is a typo? I mean, we're considering that maybe mistakenly it's written unresolved, but it's resolved. Is that right? The number item 52.
Andrew, is Andrew online?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, Andrew, just making sure you did approve the stormwater concept.
Yeah, we have an approved concept on file. Correct.
Okay. Yeah, so that one, I think you can not worry about the unresolved.
Okay, so we'll consider this one is resolved, right?
Sure.
The
Yes.
resolved, unresolved column is just for internal tracking. If there was a comment made like, the stormwater concept was approved, it's not really something that you need to, it's basically resolved, period.
Okay, thank you. That's what we thought. That is, it's resolved, but it's like a, okay, so that's the only questions I had. Other than that, yeah. I have sorry. I have one more thing here. So I think it came from Amy Zhu or Ju. It's 37 item number. So the comment says property is zoned R200. Please double check required setbacks per section 447. So I think based on the county zoning laws, the setback in either side is either 12 or 15 feet. And that's what we are willing to, agree, or whichever, like 12 or 15, either one will work fine for us. So question is there any recommendation for that? When you guys are saying that is a double check. So we know that the 12 or 15, but do you have any comments other than 12 and 15?
This is Amy Zhou, DPS zoning.
Hi, Amy.
The common R200 zone requirement for the side setback is minimum 12 feet on one side, and both sides total need to be at least 25. What you're showing in the chart on this site plan doesn't match this requirement, so that's why the comment. So you need to double check what the code listed, what exactly it is required, and you need to match that on your plan.
I see. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. So, yes, at 15, 15, and 12, 15. Okay. Yeah, we'll mess this up.
And Amy, just to be sure, are we saying that we think the homes on the lots as drawn meet the standard, but we need the table corrected, or? were you
Yeah,
saying-
I just say they need the table corrected.
Yeah.
And also, when they apply for building permit, we will ask for established building line calculation.
Sure.
So that's something. And also, since there's right-of-way dedication possibility, and then if they don't meet the minimum lot area requirement, then zoning will not approve it.
Got it. Okay. No, thank you.
Yeah. To that point, definitely when we'll build the house, if we do, then we'll go back to you guys for with a house plan and engineering plan to get a permit, right? So at that time, all these things can be figure out or set that up. So we are willing to do or follow the county rules. So no problem on that
You
one.
have to go through this subdivision process and get those lots recorded first before you can apply for building permit at DPS.
Right. Yep. Agree.
If I could throw some mud on the equation, from fire department access perspective, if you increase all your BRLs to at least 15 feet in addition, well, not, but on top of Amy's 12-foot minimum, so if they're both 15 feet, then your driveway length, the distance from edge of pavement to your front doors is essentially unlimited. So that's something to consider. You don't have to do that, but it might be advantageous for you.
Okay. Just to let you guys know that is our project engineer is with in this meeting, so he's listening and definitely will adjust all these things.
Did you have any other questions about anything?
So I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments they want to share with the applicant? Well, Mizan, so next steps for us, we'll set up a post DRC meeting with you and your engineer to discuss things further, probably sometime next week. And I'll be in touch shortly after this meeting.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Everyone? we're now ready for item 2 on DRC, West Side at Shady Grove in Up County.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Philip Estes. I'm the lead reviewer for this project. Before we get started, just want to highlight a few of the comments summarized in the DRC comments that you received. There are a number of comments from Fire Department Access that are noted. Just wanted to put that on the record. I don't need to go through each of those. There's several of them, but just to note that there are some issues with Fire Department Access. Also, transportation planning also wants to note that a breezeway bike facility is recommended along Shady Grove Road. And also within and around the project, 6-foot wide sidewalk is a standard width. And there are other transportation comments as well. Also want to note that the recreational requirement data table submitted shows a deficiency for tots and adults. Staff recommends that be resolved. And Urban Design has provided some detailed comments in the summary. And Natasha, would you just like to highlight the comments here on the drawing?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Natasha Fahim from Design Placemaking and Policy Division. So we met with the applicant as a pre-application meeting in February. So most of our design comments are kind of repeat from that pre-application meeting. So the exhibit that you see here is kind of summarized or visualized our comment. So I'm starting from the blue dot up there. Initially, we request the applicant to have some sort of like a gateway feature, artwork or some sort of something sculpture vertical that mark the entrance to the development on the Crab Branch highway. So that's the comment that we are repeating. Street trees, we are hoping that they are getting provided. The drawing does not show it, so we just want to make sure that front street, front loop, and the internal alleys, the southern portion does have a street trees, the northern one doesn't. So please revise that for the next round. As Phil mentioned, there are some deficiency on the recreational program, so we did brought that up also last in February to providing some sort of like a multi-use courts or flexible courts. And we think that the best place for it would be where the yellow bubble is showing. The other comments that we have to create all the paths through the site, especially along the Shady Grove Road, should get connected to the sidewalk. So the purple dash line is emphasizing on that one. And the last comment, which also reflects in architectural comments, are none of these units are fronting into Front Street. So there are 4 units that they are siding into it. So we just want to see more architectural articulation, if it's possible, like side entry for those 4 units to help activate the sidewalk along that stretch of Front Street. And I think we have also another comment regarding the Muse. It looks like there are 2 big stormwater management there. We would like to see how you guys are trying to activate the space with seating, lighting, making it lively for residents to use. So that's kind of summarize our design comments. Phil?
Okay, thanks, Natasha. We'll turn it back over to the applicant. We can turn it back over to the applicant who.
Alexander, do you want to?
Yep, I can go from here. All right, well, good morning and thank you guys for your time this morning to review this exciting project. Just to give a little context before we go into where we want to focus on your comments, is just to give a little background to the project. We've been engaged with Montgomery County for over 15 years to re-envision the county surface park into a mixed-use multifamily and townhome community located proximate to the Shady Grove Metro. Within the West Side Shady Grove neighborhood, once complete, this project will provide housing for 1,565 families, of which 356 are affordable. For Block U, the parcel sits on the northern edge of the site, adjacent to Shady Grove Road and Crabs Branch Way, and has been studied in multiple ways over the 15 years we've been engaged on the project. When we first started, we had contemplated an office use, and then from there we went to a retail and daycare use, and now we are presenting a townhome, which we feel is the ideal scenario as it matches the character of the rest of the neighborhood. This project submitted today incorporates 40 homes consisting of 35 market rate units and 5 workforce, and completes the vision for the West Side neighborhood by providing a large community green space and the community garden for the residents. Over this past year, as we've been engaging in this part of the project, we've been in close contact with the county, the community HOA, and have hosted community presentations where we've heard from local residents. The plan submitted lays the foundation and framework for what we envision this development to be. And we also have reviewed the comments that have been provided from your team. And we really think that all these are great comments, and we're going to study each one. And we're in general alignment that this is going to really activate the green space by having made potentially a sports court and focal features around the overall parcel. So we do have a couple of comments we want to go through, and so I'm going to turn this over to James Buckhouse, who's our civil engineer, has been on the project since the very beginning. Just want to say thank you all for your time and partnership as we really finalize this final part for this overall vision of West Side Shady Grove. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. As he said, I want to go over a few of the items that were in the comments, and Phil, you touched on many of the ones we wanted to bring up. The first one I'll just touch on is fire access. We don't have to get into the details, as you said. We have reviewed those comments, and we've revisited a meeting that we have with Marie, and we are setting a meeting with her to talk those individually and talk through the details on that. So I think we have a way forward on the fire access that doesn't impact the layout that's in the current site plan. The recreation deficiency, that is absolutely true. And I guess going back, this is we'll talk to, we'll have conversations with who we need to. But I think one of the strange things here is that Block U, even though it's its own site plan, is really part of the intent of the West Side at Shady Grove Station. And what I mean by that is the recreation program that's in the original 2013 022 site plan actually includes the community garden for this on Block U as part of the overall recreation program for the West Side. So I think we'll have to figure out a way to present that information, because if we run the program that is just on Block U by itself, that is absolutely true. We're deficient in both those categories. But if we look back to the original recreation program, we are, even when we add the 40 units, we are sufficient in terms of using, again, the old 1992 recreation guidelines. I know we'll have to probably migrate that forward to the 2017 guidelines, and we're in the process of evaluating that now. But that's sort of an update on the recreation. At the end of the day, we have a path forward, and we'll be green across the board for the recreation demand.
James, if I could just offer,
sure.
Thank you for that. This is McLean Quinn with EYA. Alexander mentioned our engagement with the community groups, but in particular, we did survey the entirety of the townhome community at West Side. We received about 130 responses around the desired features to be seen in Block U. And so when we do resubmit a plan, I think it will directly address the requests that you all have made for recreation, but also it will be heavily shaped by those responses we received through the survey process from all the residents at West Side. So I think we'll have had an opportunity to satisfy all of those objectives in a way that's in keeping with the neighborhood's objectives.
And then
Yep.
James, this is Phil Hummel with Shulman Rogers. Also, just to confirm, to underline James' earlier point, that this really functions as one community. These new 40 townhomes will be part of the existing HOA. So the folks here will be able to use the facilities in the other part of the west side and vice versa. From the existing community, people will be able to use these facilities as well. So it really does function as one unified, cohesive community, and it should be viewed that way for recreation purposes as well.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Thank you, McLean. Very good points on both parts. So recreation, and for the transportation items, there's a couple items here. One is the breezeway on Shady Grove Road. One of the other comments that's related was there was a minimum right of way of 150 feet. We are currently about 160 at the closest point, which is that upper left corner of the property boundary. So we have the minimum right of way. But I guess one of the things that we want to have follow-up discussions on with transportation is the applicability of the breezeway, given all the other improvements and off-site improvements and other benefits that this EYA has put into this whole west side. I know there's a pro rata share associated with that bikeway project. And so we want to have some follow-up discussions on that in terms of additional money coming from EYA. The other sort of how that ties into the right-of-way discussion, I guess the question would be, is there is part of the discussion is, does that breezeway imply that there's additional right-of-way dedication, or is there some sort of road diet for the implementation of that breezeway? So we just want to be clear on that there's no, further dedication needed for that. There's a couple of things happening here. One is you have very steep slopes coming from Shady Grove Road down to the property, at least 3-to-1, if not steeper. And then you've also got immediately a WSSC right-of-way that parallels the Shady Grove right-of-way that makes it difficult to grade in, to fill in, to put any kind of retaining walls, et cetera, that might prohibit, the widening of Shady Grove Road for the implementation of these bike lanes, unless, like I said, there's some sort of road diet. But sort of high level, we do want to have some follow-up conversations on that. The other thing that we want to address quickly is the site distance and alley separation on Crabs Branch Way. We'll take a look at that. We know that the standards have sort of evolved over time, and what we've done on that entrance closest to Crabs Branch is it mimics what is done one block over. Not to say that what was done should be done again, but we're following a development pattern here, and so we want to have conversations on that and find a way to resolve and still maintain the integrity of the design as it's on the screen. I think those are the items. If my team wants to refresh or remind me if I missed anything that we want to highlight here today, otherwise we can move on.
Yeah, James, this is Phil. Just on the breezeway comment, there's another implication of potential conflicts about retaining trees. So another thing that we need to talk about, that potential, I know there was a comment from forestry about, maintaining as many trees as we can along that frontage. But between the WSSA easement and potential impacts from widening the right of way to accommodate the breezeway, it may also have impact on the trees as well. So we do think a follow-up discussion with planning and DOT will be really helpful on this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. And one more point on that, Amy, I did see your comments. We can work we'll talk to you and work with you to, reduce the LOD, maintain as much of the forest as possible, and perhaps reduce the community garden or redesign it. But I think there's probably a good middle ground to be able to provide a little bit of all, you know what I mean? So yeah, just want to touch on that. But thank you, Phil.
And then the only other question is if Phil could confirm for us just the resubmission schedule to keep on track would be helpful as well. Thanks.
Sure, I can send that out to you. I'll send that out to you by email after the meeting.
Hi there. I just had a quick comment. This is Sandra Pereira, Urban Design Supervisor. On the rec amenities feedback that you gave us, that's helpful, and the additional context is also helpful. We just wanted to point out that we think there are opportunities to have a few additional elements added to this plan, and we believe you also have the room to do it. So we are here and open to working with you to come up with some amenities that would make sense for your proposal, and at the same time that would add a little bit more supply points on this site, with the understanding that there's a larger network of recreation amenities within the greater community. I think there's still a benefit to having a few close by to this new units that you're proposing. One of our comments was to look at the muse, just like Natasha said, to look at the muse in the middle of your project. And if you add a few furnishings there, or benches, or other elements, that would add already some points on your recreation amenities table as well. So I think we can work with you to look at opportunities like that. And then
Thank you.
the only other point that I wanted to make is the meeting that you discussed with Fire and Rescue. If you could include us as well, just because, especially if you're talking about design and layout changes, we would like to be in the loop. And those comments may affect some of the layout aspects that we are reviewing. So it may be beneficial to have us, and maybe Philip also, in that meeting, just to keep us in the loop. Marie, is that okay with you? Are you on the call?
I'm here. Sure.
Yeah, we can certainly do that, Sandra. Like I said, we don't anticipate layout changes. I think but we'll certainly include you in that conversation.
Okay. The comments that Marie had shared with us ahead of time were pretty significant. So I just want to make sure that, I guess, if there's significant changes, we're there to also hear and be a part of that discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions you have for staff?
Not at this time. Doesn't seem like.
Anybody, any other agency that wants to share comments or discuss?
Anyone else have comments or questions? Other agencies? Okay, well, thank you. I'll send out the schedule to you, Phil and Alexander.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you guys
Phil,
for your time.
Also,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
take care.
in areas that are not shown on the plan. So the entirety of the outlot should be included. The stream buffer should be reflected across that area. It should also include the floodplain that's on the property. We do expect you to submit a variance request for the impacts to trees that will be impacted, and especially with respect to the trees that are influenced by the historic setting. So there's some intersectionality there. You are also proposing a new home that's quite close to New Hampshire Avenue, so that will be subject to our noise guidelines. And so we will be looking for some mitigation improvements to address those. So I kind of covered Chapter 24A for historic preservation, Chapter 22A for 24A, and then Chapter 22A for his forest conservation. But the plan also needs to address all of the requirements of Chapter 59 for zoning. So just a couple things off the top. Compliance with the development standards for the RC zones, updating your data table. You're also proposing a flag lot, and there are additional requirements for approval for that. So we would need to see appropriate justification. We also had some concerns. I did provide a section for you about subdivisions and developments that preclude future development. And so we wanted to just bring up the fact that the pipe stem is very narrow, and so that might preclude some future excess future, I guess, future access scenarios, what I'm trying to say there. And then the last issue is with transportation. So your next package should include a roadway cross section that shows the existing conditions and then also the proposed conditions with the side path and the sidewalk and the buffer. So those are really our 4 areas. I know it seems like a pretty straightforward subdivision, but again, this just has a lot of layers, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have about the comments.
Sure. Does staff believe that this would qualify under the administrative subdivision process?
I think that's a good question. If we read, yeah, the language is very specific. It says certain residential lots. You do qualify, you're in the residential, the RC zone, which is included, but it does say for the creation of 3 residential lots. And because you are creating lots that have commercial on it, I would probably say it doesn't really meet the letter of the law.
Okay. I mean, we wanted to confirm that. The transportation issues, there was a comment mentioning the fee in lieu. We probably would request fee in lieu instead of building the side path that doesn't really connect to anything. We believe we would meet a couple of the qualifications. There's a pretty substantial bank on the east side of New Hampshire that would, if we're going to include all those frontage improvements, we would end up with a retaining wall. And there's some utility poles that might need to be relocated. So would staff support the fee in lieu?
So this is Leah speaking on behalf of transportation. The minimum permit calculation is based on, it's just that, so we can share the policy. I think I referenced the policy with you. So
you did?
Yeah, it isn't, sorry, in my comments, it isn't speaking towards what is on site that, doesn't allow for the development. It's more speaks to the word for it. It's a proportionality calculation. So when you do the proportionality calculation, that should tell us whether or not you have to pay the fee or build. And then we can go from there. So at your next phase, we would run that calculation for you.
Thanks.
Okay. First of all, thank you for everybody for giving us feedback. You know, this property hasn't really changed in hundreds of years, and it's only changed to what it is now 50 years ago. And we're just starting to think about, you know, how to use some of this land and how to benefit from it. Because right now it's used, but it's, you know, not optimal. And so this has been very instructive. I guess I don't think deciding to find the historical boundaries that make sense for this to protect this historical site, redefining them is fine. I don't think that would be a conflict. But I am wondering, cost-wise, when we get into doing this road improvement and bank change and driveway expansion, perhaps, I don't know if it needs it or not, it's going to wind up being more than we expected to have to do and may change our minds. I think we're going to have to rethink about this whole project, and whether we want to get into this endeavor. You know, I'm naive because I don't do this for a living, but I said, oh, well, we have this land, let's just draw it a little differently so that we can the main goal was really to make the house its own lot and the business its own lot and have separate addresses. That was the primary goal. But to do that, it seems like we're looking at kind of redoing the whole front of the property and more. If I'm right about that, then we're really going to just have to take a deep breath and reconsider.
So this is Rebecca from DOT. So obviously New Hampshire Avenue, I think it's on New Hampshire Avenue, is the state right away.
Yeah.
And you are building a house, correct?
I mean, that's a proposal. We don't have to,
Right.
honestly. Yeah.
Well,
It's
so
just that
there-
it was an
there's a-
idea for the land. Go ahead.
There's a difference between if you build a house and subdivide the lot or in subdivide land versus just platting property. So there is a difference between the two. We would look at, but what we really want to see is show us the frontage along New Hampshire so that if in the future we decide to put something in there, that we have the right of way to do so. That would be what we would take a look at first. You'd want to show the grades and to ensure that things can fit within the right of way, if it's existing or if we need to dedicate additional right of way. I don't think we would ask for you to construct anything if it doesn't connect. No, you would? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wrong on that one.
That's why Leah's talking about the proportionality policy, about like trying to figure out, we do have a calculation based on how many units you're proposing and how large your frontage is, and we try to make sure that that makes sense.
Right. So that's the biggest thing that I think that you would look at is the proportionality.
Yeah.
And so de minimis, and so Leah said that she would look at that at the next submission. So, but I don't necessarily know we have.
We can also provide the calculation and because like it's really based on how long your frontage is. So you will know that. So we can give you the information so that you can do the calculation, but we're also happy to verify. Would that be fair, Leah?
I think that's
Yeah, and we can do that outside of another submission. You can do that via email so that you can just find out. So if that's a deal breaker for you, we're happy to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a deal breaker. One of my thoughts was, well, what you just mentioned, if we submit something with no additional home, so no additional building at all, but redividing, if you look at this, it's 2 lots. There's a 7-acre and then a 29. It was 27 and 15 years ago or 20 years ago or something. There was a couple acres added. So there's 29-acre lot now with the house on it. and the other buildings. If all we submitted was don't touch the 7-acre lot, leave that alone, and the 29 that has the special exception, if we just said we just want to take out, we want to make this historical home have its own historical lot that has its own address, and the special exception goes with the rest of it. Would we still need to address all these things about frontage and road, if we're not doing any construction?
You still need to meet the, the development standards of the RC zone. So we would still ask you to show a data table, and you are proposing a flag lot. And so that has additional requirements. So we would still be looking at those things from chapter 59.
Okay, so in that case, the
It could go to the board because of the flag lot.
okay. All right. But even though there's, just to make sure I understand, if we're not asking for any new buildings or we still have to, you still would want this sightline study and the right of way where needs to be checked, and all those things still need to happen.
So if you're not adding any new development, new houses or anything, new development on a site, we don't ask for the site distance. But when you do add it, if you in the future you would come in later, we would ask, DPS would ask for that. I think the thing is that if you're platting the property and you're subdividing it, even if you don't plan to construct a house at that point, we would ask for to meet the requirements. This is the time that we ask for that information. So if you're just like, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to get at. Like, we generally, if you're coming in to plat the property, you have to abide by the rules and regulations at the time of the development.
Okay. So if I understood what you said, in order to take this 29 acres and turn it into, say, a 5-acre lot with the historic home and a 24-acre lot as the rest, that requires platting, which would also involve the sightline study and all the rest. Is that right?
If there's no new development at that time, we would ask you to do that. However, when you come in if you decide to build on a building, then we would ask you to provide the site distance at that time. But if you're just platting, we will be looking for right-of-way conformance and some of the other things that Tamika was talking about, like making sure that it meets all the minimum standards for lot size and all that kind of stuff, even if you're not putting a house on it, because you're recording a lot more.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the reason we have a lot on here is because there was space for a lot. It wasn't because I want to build a house there to live in or something. It was just a way to use the property. So I don't know. We'll have to reconsider what we ask for, I guess. Mike, do you have any, or Steve? Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. With respect to the special exception, would we go to the Board of Appeals or the hearing examiner prior to subdivision, during subdivision, to reconfigure the area of the special exception?
A good question with the timing.
So typically speaking, like we can take an administrative subdivision or a preliminary plan to the board at the same time as a special exception. However, then the hearing examiner looks at the special exception first. And if that's approved, then you can go and do platting after that. But you'll have gone through, if you want to, it's up to you. You can do the preliminary plan concurrently, or you could do it afterwards. It has various advantages or disadvantages to both. If money is an issue, for example, sometimes you might want to make sure that the special exception gets approved before you go to preliminary plan. So you may not want to pay that fee unless that all goes through. If you're pretty confident that it's going to move forward, I would recommend taking them concurrently because it saves you some time with review. But the sequence would
Okay.
be, you would take them concurrently to the board, you would take the special exception to the hearing examiner to get that finalized, and then you'd come back to the planning department for your record plat.
Okay. All right. Understood.
I don't know details, but you know, right now the special exception is for the whole 29 acres. It doesn't specify an area, and we don't need the whole 29 acres to have a special exception. We'd be reducing the area.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing, and not asking for any new amendments to this exception. So I just, my feeling is like, why wouldn't that get approved? But again, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assumption. Yeah,
Yeah.
as Tamika said at the top, this is fairly straightforward. Like, I think for certain, if you were going for a new special exception, I can understand splitting the two processes because you're not sure. But I agree with, from what you're saying, that would make sense.
Yeah, we're just kind of reducing the area. In
Yeah,
effect.
which
So,
isn't
okay.
needed for a finding. Yeah, so you're good.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I think my questions are answered for now, unless Steve, you have something else.
No, I'm good.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
We appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you. Yep.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yep. Bye.
seeing again, we're on item 4 for DRC. It's the Neighborhood of Maryland Concept Plan in East County. Whenever you're ready. Oh.
I think it's me. I'm apparently sitting in the wrong seat. Sorry.
It's okay.
Throwing everybody off. Okay, let me share a copy of the plan. So we have some very nice hard copies here, some posters that the applicant team brought in. But here's the screen coming up. Okay. So yeah, thanks so much for submitting this as a concept plan. Overall, we think this is a really neat concept, great way to provide specialized housing and additional facilities for a unique population. So we're definitely supportive of this, type of housing in this location. As you probably know, as we've discussed, Bob, this site has a lot of environmental constraints. So the NRI is, I think, in the process of being approved, but hasn't been approved yet. So we don't know exactly where any of the environmental features or buffers are yet. And that is probably the biggest limiting aspect here that's going to dictate the site design, exactly where those environmental features are. So most of our comments revolve around that. I think we will be able to have some more definitive discussions once the NRI is approved, but we've come up with kind of lists of suggestions of things to consider as you refine the design and after, the NRI is approved and we know exactly where everything is. So the master plan in this area also has very strong language about preserving the environmental resources. So obviously that factors into our review. So we'll turn it over to you all to ask questions about any of the comments you received.
Sure. Thanks, Emily. That's a good recognition of what we're up to. Just for the group's benefit, this is a concept plan that would be followed by a conditional use application that would then be followed by a preliminary plan. So there are multiple phases here, and we're really just at the surface to make sure that what Bob and his people want to do is feasible. So we know that there's a lot of work to be done, but before they start spending, nonprofit money, they want to do that. And I thought, just because we heard so much about autism and special needs in the news, I thought it would be useful for Bob just to tell you what he's trying to accomplish here, because it is really, really special.
Thank you, Bob. I'm Bob Allnut, lifelong Montgomery County resident. And I had to write something down because I could talk about this for hours and just bore the heck out of you. But what I can tell you is there's hundreds of sites in Montgomery County that won't accommodate this project. So we've been working very hard to try to make it work. We're excited to present our concept plan, and our goal is to transform a challenging 10-acre site bordering the ICC into a groundbreaking community that addresses critical gaps in housing, inclusion, and accessibility for adults with special needs. And it's a vastly underserved population. I'm the zealot behind this because I have a 24-year-old non-speaking autistic who requires one-on-one attention and will for the rest of his life. And I want him to have a place to live out his life in a great environment and not be in a group home in a neighborhood that didn't really want him there. I want him to be in a place where he's appreciated and feels comfortable. The Neighborhood of Maryland is a 501c3 nonprofit. It's founded by parents navigating the post-school, post-mom and dad phase of life for their loved ones. And the neighborhood will empower adults with special needs to live purposeful, socially connected, and self-directed lives. And as my son Jack says, I want to live near my friends. For 5 years, we've searched Montgomery County for a site where we could realize our vision. And as you know, there are many very well-organized and well-funded companies scouring this county. So there's no secret sites. And in January, this site did come available. And boy, it's got us all over it. It's 10 acres. What others saw, they saw ICC exposure, wetlands, gas easements, challenging sewer connection access as obstacles. We see those as opportunities because it gives us the chance, a rare opportunity for a mission-driven nonprofit like us to actually build something truly transformative. Our plan includes two complementary components. First is the Public Enrichment Center, which is going to be a 15,000 square foot social hub modeled after Wisconsin's Journey 21 project, which we visited, and it's fabulous. And that's what we're going to copy shamelessly. And it's basically the building itself is going to be, modeled after the Day 6 Center, but about 1/3 of the size. And it's basically going to offer classes, recreation, social programs for all county residents with special needs. The other component is going to be a private neighborhood housing cooperative, and it's going to be 19 homes, providing adults with neurological challenges the chance to live independently as they're able, with ownership options and a full choice over daily life and supports. It'll create a replicable, inclusive lifetime housing model. And the design will incorporate elements of the pocket neighborhood and of the TND. We live in Kentlands, and it's worked out great for my son. And this would be a good transition for him. He's used to be able to be in a walkable community with people that know him. This site might be the neighborhood's only viable opportunity to bring this vision to life, mainly because of its challenges that fend off all the developers who would otherwise snap it up. And we appreciate the input that you all have given us, from the county and approval agencies. And with cooperation and guidance from you, we think we can navigate the challenges and create a nationally significant model of independence, dignity, and connection. So we're fortunate to have a great team. There's other folks that are on this call that have stepped up and have really been super helpful in the 5 years. And we think we can make it happen with your help, and we can build something extraordinary. So
I'm sorry. Two particular issues we want to delve into a little bit today, and then we're going to have to set up some follow-up meetings. But Dave is really, engineering this plan. So I thought it'd be best for him to open those doors to those couple issues.
Yeah, I think, thanks. Dave Ager with Townscape. So there's a lot of themes in the comments. There's several comments, but they kind of coalesce around certain themes. Obviously, Emily hit on the key point. Will Saffel from ESA, who did the NRI, is on the call. We're going to ask him to say a few things, and we're just going to want to try and set the table for this follow-up meeting. We see the environmental features a little differently. We think there's solutions that may allow just one entrance, and we'd like to talk about that in a future meeting. We totally agree with staff. Oh, first of all, I want to also say we really appreciate a lot of detailed input. It's not that we can't do it, we can't respond to it, but we're trying to make a decision on a go, no go feasibility, and that level of detail was very much appreciated. I want to thank everybody for that. But going back to the environmental features, we are in total agreement that this is a area where we have to have sensitivity. We believe that we've done that, and maybe not fully explained in our concept proposal, but we have actually limited our imperviousness from where we started. For example, we were very careful to place the road where we believe there's an ephemeral channel, not a wetland. We've avoided the wetlands. We are doing, we're going to do what's necessary to make that work. But that's our kind of approach to this. The other thing, Bob, I don't know if I heard you mention it, that the cooperative portion, the residential portion, is going to be somewhat fenced in for safety purposes. So that's important. So it's not your typical residential community where you're going to have a lot of connectivity, but there is going to be one secure connection to the enrichment center. So this will be like a fenced-in community for that reason. The other things, just to point out, in the master plan, for example, when the baseline studies were done for forestry, for example, this was an agricultural site. So this is starting to already be a better site than it was from an environmental standpoint, because there's an emerging forest on the site. So all the forest that we're going to save is actually going to be a plus above baseline in the master plan. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. The unit types, they're going.
Before you delve into that, so just to try to close out, the one important issue we got to work together on is how we can cross that ephemeral channel. Okay, we understand that the preference always is to avoid any relationship to that. But the single entrance point works better from a safety standpoint on Montgomery Mill Road. It makes the whole project more efficient and more operable. So we want to set up a meeting to figure out what we can do there that will address the dual objectives of environmental protection, but accommodating housing for and the use of the site. So that's
special
that's really
population,
fun. So
yeah.
I guess Dave, someone will follow up with the necessary people for that meeting, right? Or do you want to
That's
set it
correct.
now?
Whoever, Emily, we'll coordinate a meeting and we'll make sure Will Sapple's there.
And one of the reasons we're concerned about that second entry is many of our population are runners and have elopement issues. And we like to keep them off of Montgomery Mill Road and out of the neighbors' garages and things. So we'd like to, one, have balance the opportunity for them to walk freely about their neighborhood, but to keep them safe and contained where we are. It won't be gated, but it'll be significantly fenced.
So a second issue, I think, has to do with the sewer and how to provide that. That's really more of a WSSC issue, I think, than you folks. We've got confirmation that the private institutional facility sewer category, will operate or will work for this site. So we've got to do the hydraulic planning analysis on the sewer. So that's to be determined. I don't think we can get into that today. Unless you have questions, yeah.
Yeah, from DEP, I work with Alice Sukuk on.
Oh, yeah, sure, thank you.
We spoke about this site. There's just a couple things I wanted to flag for you guys.
Yes.
That you know that in the last review for the congregation that was going to use the site, WSSC stated they might need some upgrades to a pump station in the area. I don't know if you guys have.
Yeah, we've seen that. There's pump station there.
Here, so the outfall that would come up and then go back to this pump station.
Yeah,
It's
so
limited.
in the last review, they said they might need some upgrades to accommodate new flows.
Yeah.
I don't know, have they brought that to you?
Yeah, we were.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We were aware of that, but thank you.
I'm a little confused because there's two different ways to go with the sewer. One is, I'll call south, and one is north.
You
And
could go in front of.
it doesn't seem that we need to do both, but we do have to get into that once we do the hydraulic plan analysis.
Just making sure that you.
Thank you for bringing that. Yeah, because that can be a big number, we know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
What other?
Well, the other thing too is the unit types. Bob mentioned that you really want to avoid kind of the institutional quality that you see sometimes for this population. And so we want to make it feel very homey, very much like where they grew up. And it's the transition. I think you mentioned transition was the way to deal with that. So we very specifically are using a duplex, single family type of approach. These are relatively small units. They can accommodate up to 2 residents and their helpers.
Well, they're basically four total.
4 total.
In a perfect world, we do single level. But we can't, the site doesn't allow it. So we're going 2 levels, and the concept, although we're not gonna control who occupies necessarily. Specifically for my son, I was thinking he would have a room. His aide would have a room. As we kind of get into dealing with a special needs adult, 1 aide might not be enough. So the thinking is at maximum, we would probably have 1 participant and an aide over, and the second floor would be 1 participant and an aide, but it could be any combination thereof. We'd like 1 level because my son has seizure disorder, and having a seizure at the top of the stairs is not ideal. They'll be on the 1st floor. But we're taking what the site will give us, but also trying to maximize the opportunity for other adults with special needs to be there. So we don't want to waste a building pad on just potentially 1 person. It'd be great to double up and maximize that benefit.
Bob, if I may ask a question. So these units are completely sufficient? Like when you said 2 levels, like each one gonna have their living, bathroom, kitchen?
No,
Okay.
no, this is basically a 4-bedroom, 2-story, single family or townhouse dwelling. It won't be 2 units. It'll be 1 unit.
It would be
So
1
1
unit.
kitchen.
Right.
One
Okay.
living space.
So there's, they'll be doubling up and things like that. The whole concept, and one of the, to stay within federal regulations, we have to separate services and real estate. So we're not providing services. So whatever happens inside of the front door, it can be their model. It could be, if people don't need a lot of help, my son in particular needs a one-on-one all the time. So at least one, if not two or three helpers.
So-
Some people are just quirky and don't need a help.
So do the unit types, do you see any challenge with that? I mean,
That's a
No,
question.
just
Yeah,
understand
okay.
like the footprint, because you said the units are usually like a smaller than average.
Just bedrooms, yeah, the combined unit, how big will?
Basically had 2,000 to 2,400 square feet.
Yeah, so.
So it's not a tiny,
A normal sized townhouse, if you will, yeah.
And the other
right.
thing is, the other thing, I'm sorry. The other thing-
I do see the issue with the unit type is that what you're showing right now does show development in the buffer. And so since the goal is to preserve water quality without losing units, right? I would think that that would be part of the goal.
Yeah, let
here.
me,
Let me finish.
yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, some redesign is going to be necessary to get units out of the buffer. We can talk about the road connection and what techniques you would use to bridge that. But so that's where I think some of our concern with unit types comes from, is we
Yes.
understand that you want to
Yeah.
house a certain number of people. And so there might be some unit types that would be more efficient with the footprint.
That's kind of the reason we're doing the 2-story rather than 1-story, even though 1-story would have been preferable. We know that would take up more of the site, so.
And,
Yeah.
and the comment about the buffer is well received. We need to make a revision to avoid that
Mhm.
conflict. And,
Yes.
and so we're gonna do that in the next ring.
Dave, to the comment you made about access, that you really want to have one access point as opposed to perhaps two access points that we suggested. Can you elaborate on the location of that one access point? Because we also were asking the question, does it have to be where it's shown now, or could it be perhaps to the north, away from the environmental features? So can you explain? a little bit better?
Sam and Rebecca, I mean, our objective and our belief was that the ideal location is to have it confronting an existing road, to have a 4-legged intersection rather than another intersection 100 yards north of there. That's normally not ideal. So I'm no engineer, you guys are, but this seems to be the ideal location from an engineering standpoint. Yes, it does have the environmental impact issue, but we believe we can address that.
I can talk. I'm just seeing the transportation planner for this project. Well, it is true. Usually mostly we want access points to be aligned with existing access points, just because it's safer, and it also, like, in terms of operation, it's better, and it's more efficient. In this case, I think that you're restricted because you have and Ariel can talk about this later. You're restricted because you have some environmental feature there, and that's why we brought the issue, or maybe the option, that it could be further north, so you can avoid those environmental constraints that you have there.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I mean, I think the environmental issue is here. So, I mean, conceivably, it seems to me the location could be there, but you still need to be able to get to this via the single access point. So somehow or other, you need to cross that ephemeral channel.
Yeah, to put it in its simplest terms, the enrichment center is public and the housing is private. So we don't want to bring public traffic through the private residential area. And the way the site tells us, we can't fit the housing on this side of the stream.
Yeah, that's
kind of from our perspective.
We tried very hard to do that. We just couldn't make it work.
I think so. Well, first, Ariel Zelaya, I'm the environmental planner for this project. First, we need to confirm the natural resource inventory that it's coming very soon. However, here, what we can see is that, the buffer for the stream is a little bit off. So unit 10, 11, and 12 might be completely affected by that. The road,
We're going to replace.
the channel that you're calling, it is a connection between two wetlands. Therefore, we're required to have a buffer. And there are so many things, in the forest conservation law and the master plan. However, I think so we can accommodate what you need. but you may have to put a lot of effort at changing the layout, and perhaps that would imply that you may have to have two entrances, because we don't want to create a fragmentation between the wetlands. We have historic records from 1988 that there were two intermediate stream in this area. So the quality has been diminished by many factors, right? So we want to do our best to protect the environmental features, but at the same time, I think so this might be the site that you need. So, but you will need, so I'm just going to get a little bit off here. So to guide you a little bit. So first, no fragmentation of the wetland. And even if it is a channel, because you have a wetland right here, a wetland right here, and you have a wetland in
Forest.
a stream here. So this is going to change because we want to keep you away from here.
Right.
The layout may need to change because you are basically encroaching, this section here and the road here. And this, we might be allowed to do pedestrian bridges in the channel. That's something that we can definitely accommodate. But the ideal solution might be just like create a road, and this can be open to the public, and create out another entrance can be gated only for residents. I think so that create, the security that you need. Otherwise, which is probably something that we did explore, is that you had to build a bridge here, and that is going to be extremely expensive to my knowledge. So that's a possibility that you could explore, and we'll be happy to.
Okay, what about the transportation people? Do you see a problem with having?
It's a state roadway, so the state would make that.
Okay.
Is anybody here from the state right
Yeah.
now?
No.
But so I would contact Crazy and see. I mean, that is a concern. The road is.
Crazy's not online.
I don't think so.
I mean, if we create an exhibit to show exactly what the
With
real, do you want to share that on the screen for everybody?
Just as a note, just because we need more laws and more regulation, it can't be a gated community.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's not going to be open for the public anyways, right? You're trying to contain
Keep people from getting killed when school lets out. Yeah.
So I think so you can perhaps accommodate that for the residential part. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But you have to provide another entrance.
Yeah, the only, I just want to make sure that we're not going.
Oh, of course, yeah. And that's a.
I don't want to go down a dead end street, pardon the pun, and say we need two entrances and then be told we can't have two entrances, because that would kill the project.
I suggest that we have scheduled a follow-up meeting.
Yes.
I think that's really the
So
best way.
it should be, I think, the environmental people and the transportation people together, because each has an objective. They may not be uniform, but there's got to be a solution.
And we
Yeah,
want to
the-
see.
Oh, and the problem with this specifically is that I have reached out to SHA, and SHA cannot comment on this because they don't have a detailed concept plan. So that's a problem that they.
Well, they call it a concept plan, isn't it?
And so I did ask about, the questions that you outline and all those things, but they are asking for something more detailed.
Did you ask them about the potential of two different entrances here?
I don't remember, but I did send an email about this. I guess that one thing is that if these are two separate sites, two separate lots, then this should be fine based on the SHA guidelines. But then again, this is contingent upon what SHA says about site distance, minimum spacing requirements and all those things. I did do a quick look out, and I did my maths or measurements, and I think this might potentially work, but then again, I need SHA symbol.
That's helpful here, because I hadn't done any calculations, nor do I even know how to do it.
And I
But
can
if you
point
think that,
you, I can point you to a SHA manual, and you can do your own measurement
so
based on
Dave,
that.
can you reach out to him and set up a meeting, and, if you can encourage SHA to attend, or at least remotely, that would be very
In
helpful.
those conversations and those follows of minutes, SHA will be involved,
Okay,
for sure.
And then Amy, the environmental people, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
I do think we should wait until the NRI is approved.
But in
Yeah.
general,
We meet again?
it won't change a lot. The natural resource inventory won't change. The buffer in the corner is going to be expanded. And the channel would require a buffer too. That's for sure.
But it would be helpful to overlay, once NRI is approved, overlay.
How long before that gets approved as that?
Just for everyone's benefit, the NRI, it's already been changed and resubmitted.
Okay.
Only thing missing on the NRI where we disagree or have a difference of opinion is the ephemeral channel. It's been a request on the NRI to put a 40-foot buffer on that. We have not done that, but we've accommodated everything else. That was a comment that came in late, kind of in a cycle by itself.
Okay, so you think we're ready to have the discussion?
We are absolutely ready to have
Okay.
discussion.
All right, so you,
That discussion without.
I think so. The road, it will be the only
Yeah.
challenge that we have. But if the applicant are willing to provide a bridge, or if the applicant are considering two entrance, we can make it work. I think so. It's definitely. Yeah.
That's what I really appreciate
believe
that
that's a
comment.
solution, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
we have two options we need to look at, and I appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Yeah, what Ariel, this is Natasha, sorry, what Ariel was explaining on the street, on the screen, like we provide the exhibit to kind of summarize. So you have this exhibit on the E-plan, on the up folder.
Yeah, and my apologies, I didn't download that. I missed it. Somehow I missed it.
Yeah, so that's why I brought it up, because that's exactly showing how you can have two entry point, one for public, one for resident, and then some sort of pedestrian bridge that can connect these two facilities together.
Okay.
Okay.
So I invite you to, like, it's on E-plan, so you
Okay,
can.
thank you, sir.
I think that gives us something to work towards. So you can do some more work, set up a meeting. I think we're about out of time here, so I don't know if there's anything else.
You want to say something about the?
We'll let Will talk in
Yeah.
the detail.
Okay.
Follow me. I think that's, we're out of time.
Okay, appreciate you guys working with us.
Thank you,
This is a
everybody.
concept plan. We're not gonna be able to figure everything out, but we need to be confident that we can go forward with this plan again, because particularly the economics of it being, private donations, it's not a wealthy developer. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate just sharing a little bit more about the history, and how you got here and the vision of the project. So, it sounds great.
Wow. Yeah.
In fact,
Wealth of information.
everyone support you. This project and bringing this to reality.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Design team, and we would all like to be included in the follow-up meeting that you have with environment.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for working with us on it, folks.
Thank you all.
administrative subdivision plan in Kensington Park. Accurate.
Thank you all for being here today. Won't take too much of your time. And thank you, Eric. So this application is just to propose, 2 lots for single-family detached units. There weren't a lot of comments or, major impacts. So Eric, if you have any questions based off of the comments provided, I'll go ahead and kick it over to you.
Sure, thank you. Just 2 quick questions. One, transportation had a comment about, can a sidewalk connection be made to the homes in addition to the driveways? Is that like a lead walk? Is that what that's supposed to be? Or is that request like from up? Okay. And then the second question is, I know we've done this previously, but I wanted to sort of confirm because there was no actual comment on it. If the applicant chooses to apply for a sidewalk waiver at the time of building permit, I wanted to make sure that the note that we have on the plan is sufficient. And then any conditions of approval written by staff sort of included that quote unquote typical language that allows for that waiver application to be processed.
So my understanding, Florence, isn't, these roads are maintained by the town of Kensington, right? Okay, so I would recommend, Eric, that let's touch base with the town of Kensington to see what they want, because Sam, would they handle any waiver also? Okay. So rather than leave this up in the air, let's figure out what they want, what they're gonna do, and then the conditions of approval will reflect that.
Okay. And you guys haven't heard anything directly from Matt or anybody over at the town?
No, we've reached out to them, but haven't heard back regarding that yet.
Okay. I believe that the applicant has talked with him, not specifically with regards to the sidewalks, but just about the project in general. Stuart, is that correct?
Yes, I met with Matt about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we walked the property, went over the plans and all that stuff, and he had no objections, and he said they'd support it.
Okay. All right. Then we'll reach out to the town with regards to the sidewalks. And then we'll circle back with you guys. Park and planning. But that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you. And then any correspondence too that you received back from the town of Kensington, can you just CC me and Florence on it as well?
Yes, we'll do.
Anyone else have any comments that they want to share? Okay, well, this concludes our DRC. It was going to be very short today.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.